Like you see guys like Canelo who get no credit, who started off as mainly a welterweight or maybe a couple fights, was dominant at junior middleweight, but has jumped went as high as light heavyweight to beat a very good fighter. And he not only beat him, he stops him, knocks him out, and gets absolutely no credit.
What's good, Danger No Boxing Talk? It is BC Left Hook, and I'm here as always with my partner, Twine. And today we have two special guests. First, we want to thank Kelly, the Ghost Pavlik, for coming on the show. You were our first interview, so you helped launch us here. We want to thank you for coming on. And you want to tell everybody where they can follow you on social media?
Yeah, I'm at pavlik.kelly for Instagram, and then Kelly Pavlik on Facebook. So I keep it simple.
Awesome. No, what about your show, man? You have an amazing show with James Dominguez.
Yeah, it's fun, man. We tap on things. We explain the fight. The format is for the listeners, so everybody could talk and get their questions off, and it's a good time. Everybody gets to mingle and bullshit. So.
Absolutely. And we also want to thank a friend here, Anthony Stack Saldana, from both the Boxing Rundown podcast. I see you on there, and also Supreme Boxing. You want to tell everyone where they can follow you at here on social media?
Yeah, you can follow me on Supreme Boxing, all their social media sites, Twitter, IG, Facebook, and then also the Supreme Boxing website. Also, the Boxing Rundown, man, they've had me on as a guest. As you guys know, we have our own podcast. Our podcast was a little different because we bring people live into our studio. And because of this whole COVID thing, we kind of just put that to a stop. So I've been part of the Rundown here for the last few months, helping them out. So, yeah.
Is he muted?
Yeah, you said. I think you're muted, Malachi.
Oh, my bad. I was saying this. It was good to see you because I had tuned into the last episode of the Rundown, expecting to see you guys, and they explained that you had got caught up in some traffic, or you couldn't get to where you were going because of a fire. Then you sent me the pictures, and I was like, wow. So, and that's the second time for you, correct?
Second time that we've had a fire out here. I'm a little bit east of Los Angeles. I'm in the Inland Empire, out the Rancho Cucamonga, Ontario area. And the 15, man, I have to travel the 15 to get into the LA Basin, and everything was shut down because of fires out here, man. So, yeah, I ended up staying home that night. But second time I got caught in a fire out on the freeway, man. So.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's why I like living right where I do in Ohio. We get cold, we get some snow and shit like that, but I can deal with that because it ain't like Minnesota snow either. And we don't have no tornadoes, we don't have hurricanes, we don't have earthquakes, wildfires. Knock on wood. But shit tomorrow.
Fuck yeah. I mean, out here, earthquakes and wildfires lately, man. A lot.
Yeah. But we do get the worst of the heat in the summer and the humidity, and then we get the cold in the winter. So
yeah, I'm in Virginia, so sort of similar situation in Ohio, but it's good to have everybody on tonight. We're going to talk some boxing. Twine, real fast, how you doing today? I let them talk first, but how you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm just glad to have both you guys on, Kelly and Stacks. You know what I'm saying? It's always good to have you guys on with us. So much appreciated for coming on tonight, fellas.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's good to be on.
All right, we're going to open up. We're going to open up with a topic, something that hit this week. It was Deontay Wilder and his trainer, Mark Breland, parting ways. We had talked a little bit about it last week. In my opinion, sometimes a change of scenery is good. Sometimes it's not. We've seen that in the past in fighters. I believe, Kelly, you've changed trainers. So yes. I want to come to you about that in a second. The only worry I have is it's so close to Fury Wilder 3 that having to go in there immediately into that situation with the new trainer, that could be difficult. I believe Dillian White even called him an idiot, but I think someone needed to remind him. Didn't he change trainers right before his last fight, in which he got knocked out in? But Kelly, as somebody who's changed trainers, right? How did that affect your career?
It didn't. It was a little late in the career. It's hard to explain. Like, it was good because it wasn't like I left a trainer to go to somebody who was so. I left Jack and I went to Robert Garcia, who is the best trainer in the sport. Right now, as far as the accolades and the amount of world champions he has. And you learned it was different, just like when you think you learned everything and you know it all, there's more to learn. But a situation with trainer, a lot of times it's always the fighter. It's the fighter didn't do this, the fighter didn't listen, he didn't do this. And sometimes the fighter is the one who has to go in there and actually get hit and put his life on a line. And his family may have to pull the plug on him in the hospital or permanent damage. The trainer don't have to go through that. With that being said, I'm not defending the fighter. There's cases where the fighter is in the wrong and the trainer is kind of like they don't know what to do. Mark Breland, in my opinion, he was a fantastic fighter, and it seems like he's a pretty good trainer, but maybe there's something there that Deontay Wilder is not feeling. You know what I mean? And again, nobody else is going in there and putting their life on the line. And I say that because, as we've seen in the last couple of years, is brutal. So maybe Deontay feels he needs something else to sharpen his arsenal. So I mean, until then, we don't know a lot of the reasoning behind it. But I really don't see no problem in that. The only problem I would see is if he left Breland real close to the fight and didn't give Breland a cut for training him for 6 weeks. You know what I mean? But in this case, that's not the situation.
Understand? Now, Stacks, what do you think about him changing trainers so close? It's his next fight, I believe, has to be Fury, right? According to the contract, like the rematch clause, right? So, how do you think that's going to affect that fight?
I think Kelly hit it right on the head, man. And Kelly's a pro fighter, and like he said, I think he's just going to sharpen his arsenal. Deontay's already in his mid-30s. I don't think there's anything that any new trainer is going to do to change his style or what he's doing. They can only adjust and improve. What he has in his style and his equalizer of that right hand is always going to be there. He may adjust his footwork a little bit. He may, tend to sharpen up his technical skills a little bit more. But as far as actually changing the whole style of fighting, I doubt that any new trainer is going to try to change what Deontay does in this short amount of time. I think, like I said, it can just be adjusting to little things and little mistakes. I watched a documentary that Andre Ward did on ESPN Plus, and he talked about the fights, and little things that Deontay Wilder was doing as far as, throwing that right hand from so far away, instead of using his left hand and popping his jab. And it was just, he was telegraphing everything, and he kind of broke down Wilder. So those are the little things I think a trainer can do for Wilder. And as far as being this close to the fight, like I doubt that it's going to do anything but maybe improve him and just show him some new skills.
Yeah. Okay. And what Stacks is saying, that's a really good point that I didn't bring up. When I got with Garcia, real quick, that is a good point too with Deontay. If he'd probably rather try something new instead of going in and having doubts in his head going into this fight. But Robert Garcia, a good trainer, will do that. That's the first thing he told me when I got with him was, I'm not going to change your style. It's too late in the game. We're going to just sharpen what you got and add little things, tweak a little bit here and there, and sharpen that. So that is true.
Okay, real quick, I want to send a shout out to Clarence McLean. He runs a group here, Clarence McLean Promotions. You can find that through your search engine. He said, shout out to everybody real fast, but his statement was, changing a trainer won't mean a thing if he still fights the same way. I agree. I believe that what I've read was the new trainer is going to be Malik Scott. I believe that's the former contender, right? Malik Scott.
Yeah.
What do you think about that switch, Twine?
I mean, actually, Malik Scott has been in previous camps with Deontay Wilder, even this most previous fight with the Fury. So if anything, it's not a big change in camp for him. So I think that's probably the good thing. He doesn't have to get acclimated to somebody completely new in his corner. It's somebody that's already been there for him. I mean, I don't really like the decision as far as him getting rid of Breland. Even though I know Breland was only there like half of the camp, and Deontay did most of his work with J Diaz. But I think that was probably like the person that I would switch if anybody. But Deontay is loyal to a fault. That's been his trainer since the amateurs. So I mean, I don't necessarily fault him for that either. I would have liked to see him go with somebody new, though, for this fight, being that Malik Scott was in his camp previously. I'm not quite sure. Kelly and Stacks pretty much hit it on the nail. They're probably just going to try to sharpen what he has. And, Malik Scott being a former heavyweight contender himself, he might be able to, sharpen some things as far as style-wise, implementing some things as far as their game plan that might be different, because I know as far as with Mark Breland being in this corner, they used to work on him fighting tall, which is something Mark Breland told me when I interviewed him previously in the past. So I mean, if anything, Malik Scott might be trying to work with him on inside stuff, the way Fury was roughing him up on the inside in the second fight.
Okay. With that, you want to lead us into our second topic?
Sure, man. So we've had a change of date as well as location for the pay-per-view bout between Errol Spence Jr. and Danny Garcia at welterweight, going for they'll be challenging for the WBC IBF welterweight titles. They've changed the date to December 5th, and it will now be held at Dallas Stadium or AT&T Stadium. To acclimate for fan attendance, which is something different. We're seeing as far as PBC being the first stateside to try and have some crowds attending their fights. So I wanted to get you guys' opinion on the change of date. Does it benefit Errol Spence more, being that it's a later date? It was originally scheduled for November, and now it's probably like a couple weeks later. And being one of the first fights with fan attendance. Let me go ahead and start with you, Stacks.
Yeah, I do think it's going to benefit Spence. Any more time off for him to get ready from his accident, I think is going to be beneficial to him. The fight being in Texas is going to be beneficial to him. The fight having fans is going to be beneficial to him. I know they're going to allow, I believe, 17,000 fans in is what I'm hearing. And they're going to be sold in pods of 6. So if you do buy tickets, you have to buy a minimum of 6 tickets, and you're going to be put in pods. I know they're doing the same thing for the 31st when Leo Santa Cruz takes on Davis in San Antonio. Same thing, tickets are sold in pods. But yeah, I think the change of date is going to benefit Earl a little bit. We're just going to have to see what he has in him. I was out in Texas for Earl's last fight, which was the Mikey Garcia fight. And I actually interviewed Callie out there in Dallas when I was out there. But yeah, I think it's all going to be beneficial. It being in his hometown, them having fans there, because a lot of people have said going into those bubbles and not having fans, it's hard to adjust to not having people behind you. And it's kind of like I've heard some of these fighters that I've talked to, that have fought in the bubble say it's more fighting it's kind of like fighting a sparring session. And it's hard to get up and it's hard to get motivated to go after that opponent, even though it's a real fight. It's just, it's way different. Their mentality is, it's a little shook,
Kelly, let me get your opinion on that as well, as far as how you think that helps Errol in this fight, coming off a long layoff and his accident, as well as being one of the first fights with attendance, post-COVID, or while we're still going through this COVID pandemic.
I don't know how much of any of it's going to help him. I mean, he's going to need, unfortunately, he's going to need all the help he can get. Yeah, fighting in your hometown or fighting there at a place where he's recognized, that is going to help. Having fans there on top of that, it will help him. But I think pushing it back any later, in my opinion, is just more ring rust and longer away from the ring. I don't really think a couple weeks will make or break on anything else. He's been out, so not being mean, I just don't think we know where he's at after something like that. We don't know how much damage it may have caused him, if any. So I'm not going to say that, but he's been away from the ring for a little bit of time, so he's going to have ring rust. No matter how many fans you got behind you, you can't shake. Ring rust is ring rust. Timing is timing. So I think it's just more curious to see how it plays out. I think the opponent, I wouldn't have picked a guy like Danny Garcia to come back, because Danny Garcia could fight for as much as people don't think. I mean, he can fight. He's sharp. He's quick. And he got a little bit of pop with that left hook. I'm still favoring Errol Spence in that fight, and the main reason why is because I'm pretending the accident didn't happen, and I'm just saying that he has ring rust, and that's why I think Errol Spence is bigger, stronger, and just got a little more polished right now, and that's why I'm going with him. But we won't be able to find out. That's just a hard fight to pick till we see come fight night, because I don't think any of us really know where Errol's at right now.
Yeah, exactly. With those injuries, it was just a lot of speculation. They stayed real quiet about it. PBC stayed quiet about it. Brittany Goose and Brown, everybody at TGB Promotions, nobody was saying anything. People involved inside of PBC, everybody was real quiet about it. Now all we knew was that he was in an accident, but we don't know the extent of the injuries.
Yeah, let's keep it going. Like, Errol just actually started sparring again within the past week or so, following the Charlo pay-per-view. So, I mean, I'm kind of interested to see how he comes back as well. Malachi, what do you think on this whole thing?
I agree with both of our guests. I'm not sure how much it'll help or hurt him, because he's already been out this long. You know what I mean? So, what will a few more weeks do? I don't know. We'll have to see. I agree with Kelly. This is a dangerous fight, and the more I thought at first, I was just 100% Errol's going to win this fight. He's going to knock him out, right? But then the more I thought about it and started to look at it from a reality, he went through the accident. He hasn't been in the ring. Danny Garcia is not a guy you can play around with, because he got knockout power. And if he catches you, he can put you out. And like Kelly said, where's his timing going to be at? Because that's how you avoid getting knocked out is being able to time the other guy's punches and elude them and everything. So I don't know. I'm anxious to see it. I was hoping we'd get to see it, I think, next month, but December, another treat. So all right, our third topic, I didn't get any pictures for. There was a statement made today. I don't know if it was today or when it was, that Joe Smith had said that Beterbiev is the best fighter at 175, right? So I just want to get everybody's opinion on that. Do you agree or disagree? If you disagree, then who do you got as the best fighter at 175?
It was actually Dmitry Bivol, who you said was the best.
Oh, Bivol. Really?
Yeah.
I misread that then. Okay, Bivol. No, I'm going Arthur Beterbiev. I think he'll beat Bivol. I think Bivol's a good fighter, though.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, go ahead, Stats.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Bivol's great, but I just think he's a small 175er. He can get down to 168. I think he's just a little small for that division, and Beterbiev has so much more power. I mean, so he's got skills. He's quick. I mean, so yeah, I'm going with Beterbiev as well.
One thing with Beterbiev is we have seen him dropped. But go ahead, Kelly. I'll let you give your opinion.
I thought Bivol was going back down to, or was not back down, but I thought he was going to 68. I heard Benavidez in there. I think Benavidez at 68 is by far the best. But I think going to 75, my problem, I think a tough fight for him is Bivol. I think Bivol is the best at 75. I think he showed against, even though he's a small 75, he showed what he could do against the top guys. I just think his boxing ability and his boxing IQ and his ring generalship and just awareness, I think he's just too sharp. And I think Beterbiev he's brutal. He can hit. I mean, he's strong. He's in shape. But at the same time, I think a tactical breakdown after a couple of rounds with Bivol might get to him a little bit. So I got Bivol, and I just think he's too sharp. And I think right now I got Benavidez top 168, but I think if Bivol comes down from fighting guys at 175 and being used to that weight, I think it benefits him more at 168, and I think he could be the best at 68 too.
Where do you got Canelo at 68?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. If Canelo's at 168, do you still think Benavidez is the best at 168?
I don't have that. I never said. I always said I thought Canelo should stay at middleweight. I gave Canelo credit on what he has done jumping up. I gave him not so much for the 68 fight against, what was his name, Rocky Fielding. But listen, he still jumped up and beat that guy. But I give him credit for going all the way up to light heavyweight, okay? And knocking out a guy like Koval, who before the fight, everybody was picking Koval, saying he was too big. And I'm one of them guys that said that. And he went in there and not only beat Koval, but he knocked him out. That's the credit that I give Canelo. But I think Canelo's biting off more than he can chew at 68 if he was to fight a guy like Benavidez or Bivol, and especially at 75 if he was to fight a guy like Beterbiev or Bivol. I think that's just a little too much for him. And I would tell him, like, hey, slow down there, Turbo. Let's go back to 60. You got some big fights there still. You got Andrade and you got the Charlo brother and guys like that you can still clear out that division. I think some of the fans want to see him finish out the division. I mean, he's done a fairly good job against the other two top guys and Danny Jacobs and Triple G. But let's see those right now, in my opinion.
Okay. And Twine, who you got at 175?
I mean, most people that know me know I'm a huge fan of Beast Benavidez. I mean, I followed him in the amateurs and became even a bigger fan of his after I seen him against Divorce Cloud in, like, I think his second or third professional fight. Funny thing is, I paid attention to some of the groups and they kind of agreed as far as what Joe Smith has said as far as Bivol being the top at 175 just because of the peoples he's faced, Sullivan Barrera, Isaac Chilemba, John Pascal. So he has the bigger names on his resume at 175. But I mean, I think that Alexander Gavasic fight between Beterbiev showed how good he really is. Gavasic was considered a rangy guy with good boxing ability like Bivol. And, Beterbiev was able to neutralize him in that fight and ultimately break him down. I think he would be able to do the same against Bivol eventually. I don't see anything necessarily as good as as far as his footwork that doesn't make me think Beterbiev couldn't get to him eventually. So I definitely would say Arthur Beterbiev is probably my favorite as far as I think he's the best at 175.
Okay. Do any of you still see Kovalev as a legitimate threat to get back one of the titles? I know the WBO, I think it's vacant right now, so he might be able to jump up in there and grab that, but I'm talking about beat one of the current champions.
I think he stands a chance. You got the power that he's got, and he knows how to keep some fights somewhat close. I mean, at that weight, you're getting up there now at 175. Your fight night, you're probably 200, close to 200. With the power that he got, yeah, he can. Going back on the Vostik fight, with Beterbiev, I think the little issue in that one, and I may be wrong, so I wouldn't doubt it if I am wrong, but I think there was a little bit after one of the injuries of the fighters that Vostik fight before that, and I think that's why he ain't fighting no more. I think that's where I played a little role in hesitating and on firing and pulling the trigger. That's from inside the camp. That's what I heard. Now again, we don't know, but that could have been a situation with Beterbiev because it seemed like he was hesitating a little bit in that fight. So,
yeah, he had a middle block. Go ahead, Shex.
With Adonis Stevenson, Vodsik's fight was Adonis Stevenson. Stevenson was hurt, and I've seen it in the past, man. I remember in the early let's say the early '90s, mid '90s, one of the Ruelas brothers actually killed a Colombian cat. Yeah, who few days later he went to the hospital. A few days later he died, and then he was never the same, man. He never fought again. It's just like when you hurt somebody like that, even though as a boxer you're in a brutal sport and you guys are putting your lives on the line, and anybody can, things happen. People die in that sport, and it's a brutal sport. But mentally having to live with that anguish, and it's like we don't know what he was going through mentally. Like you said, maybe he was scared to pull the trigger. And as far as Kovalov winning another title again, I think the only way he does is if he fights for that vacant WBO. I know that Zanfer and Gilberto Zordo Ramirez, they have big ties to the WBO as well. I know they had ties when he was with Top Rank. I've heard they've split with Top Rank, but I'm not real for sure because nothing's been put out. But if Kovalov and Zordo Ramirez went at it, man, I could see Kovalov, hurting Gilberto Ramirez and winning another title, that vacant title. As far as going up against somebody like Better Beef or Bivol or something, nah, I think it'd be too tough for him.
Yeah, that's why I said he has just a puncher's chance. That's it. But I don't even think. I guess the guy like Better Beef that he would even. Better Beef is so strong. I don't even know if he would be able to hurt him now.
Yeah.
Agreed. What about you, Twine?
I think as far as this shots at the title at 175 or regaining the crown, I think it's pretty much nil. I mean, I don't see it happening. As far he's had his legal troubles, a lot of stuff going on, and I mean, I don't know as far as how much the fight against Canelo took out of him, being knocked out again like that. Of course, previously as well against I can't think of the Colombian guy's name from that fights out of Colombia. I mean, out of Canada. That knocked him out of fights previously. So, I mean, those kind of things might take a toll on him, might make him gun shy, especially against guys like Bivol or Bitter Beef. So, I mean, I think his chances as far as gaining WBO title, maybe, something like a minor belt, like he did Pascal, if he was to play him again, he's holds one of the minor belts, the WBA regular belts, I believe, right now. I mean, I could see that possibly. But not against the top guns at 175.
All right. So moving on, we'll talk about some other news now. Apparently, that I don't know the date. I don't remember the date that it's been confirmed, but Brooks and Crawford have been, I guess, agreed to. A lot of people were upset by the fight. I personally wasn't. I think Brook is still one of the top contenders at welterweight until proven otherwise. I got to see him lose to someone other than just Errol Spence to just toss him out.
And Triple G.
Well, that was at middleweight though. So I'm saying at welterweight.
Yeah.
The one thing I worry about is him making weight because he didn't just move to 154 because it's greener pasture. I think it's there's not more opportunities for him because 147 where it's popping. You know what I mean? You got Crawford and Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence, Danny Garcia, big money fights. 154, I mean, the big money fights really aren't there outside of Charlo. So he didn't just go up there because he thought it was, best for him. I think he was really struggling to make weight. And I wonder if he'll have an issue making weight for this fight. What do you think of the fight, Kelly? And do you have any opinion about you think he'll have any problem making weight?
No, I don't think. I think it's a fight. A lot of people ain't happy with it, but I think for fact being it's hard for Crawford to get big fights. I mean, let's be honest. I think the beef with the promotional companies. I mean, my God, they won't even mention his name as one of the top champions at 47. On with PBC. I think it's hard for Crawford to get a fight. So. Kell Brook, it's not a fight that I wanted to see. Don't get me wrong. I like to see Crawford fight Danny Garcia. I like to see him fight Sean Porter. Guys like that we know. I mean, Kell Brook, I'm not being mean when I say this, but he's almost like the Terminator 2. You know what I mean? With the bone, the metal eye and everything. It's not being a joke. He's suffered some serious injuries to his eyes and everything else. But I don't know. I think Crawford will go in there and win that fight. And I hope they start making some moves here with Crawford. He's not getting younger. None of the guys in that sport is getting younger. And I hate to see with all the talent that he has, because in my opinion, he's one of the most talented guys at 47. I like to really start seeing him get that chance to prove and become one of the best welterweights of all time.
You're on mute.
I don't want to cut anyone off.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. But we had some comments I didn't see, and I wanted to get them out here. Caleb the Ghost, Hoog. He's a cool dude. He's a professional fighter starting out in his career. He said, "What's up, champ?" He also said he wishes Canelo would clear division and go undisputed. Better be if he's a monster. I hope he can become undisputed, and politics don't kill that. Dustin Klinger said, "What's up, Danger Zone? What's up, champ?" And the homie Clarence said, "Crawford wins. They will say he's supposed to. Brook wins. It's an upset." Agreed. All right. Stacks, I don't think you gave your opinion. What do you think about that fight, man?
It's most fighters look for a high reward, low risk, and that's what this is. Brook's a big name. Everybody knows him worldwide. There's a lot of fights at 47. I shouldn't say a lot of fights, but there's some fights at 47 that could have been made that would be a high risk, but they wouldn't be such a big reward for Crawford. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a chance to go in there and make some big money, especially if they decide to host this fight in the UK and him travel across the pond for the first time. I could see that happening and some big money being made out there, because there's some contenders coming up at 47. There's some other names out there as well, but it's just like Callie was saying, just the political boundaries, man, and the promotional boundaries it's a pain in the ass right now, because PBC is not going to jump that line for Crawford, man. They don't even recognize him as a champion. If you watch some of their broadcasts and they pull up the welterweight champions, they never mention Crawford. So they're staying away from that. I know they've worked together with Wilder and Fury, but it just seems like with Crawford, I don't know what's there. I don't know why that grudge is there, but they have plenty of people at 47 to make their own fights, and they're not touching Crawford. So he's got to do what he's got to do, because with Top Rank, there's not really too many 47, guys at 147, even at Golden Boy. I mean, you got Virgil Ortiz and not even Josecito Lopez. He's PBC. So, I mean, there's not a lot of dancing partners out there for him.
Agree. And that's what I think. Dustin Klinger, he said, "Do you think he should have signed with PBC?" I think there was a rumor out there earlier this week that he was going to leave Top Rank. I think a YouTuber, I'd seen it on a YouTuber's channel. I haven't heard anything official about that. I don't know if anyone else has. But do you think that he should sign with PBC? Before we get to Twine, Kelly, what do you think? You think he should maybe think about going over to PBC since all the 147 fighters are over there?
He can. I just don't know if PBC, I mean, where they're at, I can't see them turning him away. It's frustrating. I mean, I think it's kind of unfair. I mean, if that happens, but if he has to leave his promotional company to get the big fights because of beefs going on, what's that say for the future of the sport and as far as promoting and everything else? I mean, how many big fights are you going to see froze because of a dispute, and for how long, and how much of the want and need for that fight is going to be there, say 2 years later after maybe their prime's past them? I think it needs fixed. I think they need to cut the shit and put all that stuff to the side. And I think they could all make money if they start making these fights. The money could be there, and boxing could be big. But if he goes to PBC, listen, that's his choice. I mean, that's a business move. That's his future. That's his career too. I don't think there's nothing wrong with it, to be honest with you. If you got to do what you got to do to get the big fights and big paydays, then all the power to him.
Agree. What do you think, Stacks? Think he ought to sign with PBC if given a chance?
I mean, I don't know. You don't really want to burn bridges. People think the boxing community is just this huge community, man. But I'm sure you're learning, man. Once you get into the community, it's very small. Everybody knows the same trainers. You can be a trainer like Robert Garcia, for instance, and have fighters that are Golden Boy, PBC fighters, top ranked fighters, or whatnot. So you really don't want to burn your bridges anywhere. I think what needs to happen is these sanctioning bodies needs to start ranking him higher. Even though because he's a champion, they can't. So, but I think they need to put something in, maybe to the WBC or maybe to the IBF, and say, hey, we're requesting to fight your fighters. We can make big money here. and have these sanctioning bodies come in and try to maybe mandate these fights, to unify the titles. But he's just in a real bad political spot in boxing right now.
All right. Now, Twine, I want you to answer both questions. First, I want you to start off with what you think about the fight. I'm sure you have Crawford winning. And do you think that he should sign with PBC at some point if given a chance?
At this stage of Brook's career, I definitely think Crawford will win. Brook's been fighting at 154 in his most two recent fights, I believe, or 3 fights possibly. He hasn't looked super spectacular. He's won by knockout, but he's taking his lumps still. His eyes still like they're gone. He was lumped up in his fights. Of course, you have him coming back down to 147, where people are already throwing in that weight drain excuse for him. I really wonder if Terence is going to get the credit he deserves. I still think Brook is a credible name, but is Crawford going to get the credit he deserves for this win? Because I still think it's a good fight for him as far as his 147 resume. As far as him being on PBC, I had seen that rumor as well, but I think Terence Crawford is under contract until like 2025 with Top Rank. Yeah. So I don't necessarily see that ending.
I don't know I didn't know where it came from. I just seen it on a YouTuber's thing, and then it was passed all over the internet, and I was like, "What in the world?"
The most dance partners over there, between Sean Porter, Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, even your Dennis Ugas, José Lopez, like all the names are over there with PBC. So I think it would have been better for him. As far as the big fight that everybody wants to see, I think we're going to see it sooner than later, man. I don't necessarily think this promotional beef is just about the money. It takes a lot of followers to make these crossover fights happen. Such as Fury and Wilder. Mayweather Pacquiao. One of the things that even with speaking with Derek James in our previous interviews, they brought up what kind of pay-per-view numbers can Crawford do on his own, or can he bring to the table to make this work beneficial, for both promotional parties. But I think we're going to see it sooner than later. Errol Spence is doing his WBC mandatory now. The IBF doesn't have a mandatory for him as of yet because I think what Nets is fighting for the IBF. I'm not quite sure. I know they haven't set one for him. So, it's possible we could see this sooner than later.
Hopefully we will. I'm going to answer because I already, I stated that I think Crawford's going to win the fight. I'm not as down on the fight as a lot of people are because I was very high on Kell Brook. But I would have to consider it if I'm him because, like everybody said, he's having a really hard time getting people in the ring with him. And part of that is because you're going to get beat up that night. You know what I mean? He's a beast. So in my opinion, yes, just because I think it opens up more doors for him to get bigger fights. And until he gets the bigger fights, he's always going to have the haters say he ain't beat nobody.
But the issue is we don't know the contract stipulations. We don't know what's going on. So if believe me, getting out one of the promotional contracts is not as easy, especially when you're a Crawford. So how long will be held up in court? How long will he be froze? I don't know if there's any stipulation. If the contract's not up to 2025, that's going to be a pretty penny that PBC got to put in there. And can Crawford bring in the numbers to reimburse them on that? Okay. There's a lot there. I think right now, it would be better for promotional companies to squash this beef. And as Twine said, maybe this all go away. If Spence comes into this next fight looking like a road beater again and takes out Danny Garcia, and the want is there and the demand is there for that Spence Crawford now, maybe bygones be bygones and they make the fight and they collaborate and come together. But I think trying to get out and go over to PBC, especially when PBC and Top Ranks, there's more of an ego thing there too with some of these promoters, and it's not as easy as just saying, I'm leaving you guys today and I'm going to go sign over here with PBC. There's a lot of money at stake. You got Top Rank has, in my opinion, the pound for pound best fighter in boxing. It ain't going to be easy.
Let me throw this out there to you guys as well. There was actually a interview on IFL earlier as far as with trainer Dominic Ingle, who trains Kell Brook, and it was just learned today that he's not going to be training them for this fight because he thought it was short notice. I guess he'd be coming in on 6 weeks. November is right around the corner if the fight is on the 14th. So I think, what do you think? Do you think that plays into this fight? As far as him not having his longtime trainer and Dominic Ingle?
I'll let Kelly start because Kelly's been in the ring. So what do you think?
I'm sorry, I don't know if it's my phone. I got some crackling. What was it?
He said that Ingle. It came out that Ingle had left. Or he notified Kell Brook he's not going to train him in this fight. That it was too short a notice. He wanted to know what was your opinion on that move.
It's kind of an asshole move. I think that's more. I think that's the trainer looking out for his best interest and not the fighters. I don't think he's not worried about his fighter losing or getting hurt. I think he's worried about his image, and if Kell Brook loses or gets beat up, it affects him. I think that's the only thing I can think of for a trainer to do something like that. And I'm not being mean because it goes kind of both ways. That sometimes I think trainers are right for that. If it's really about the fighter's health, maybe if he's concerned about. But if I was that trainer, I would have stated that. I wouldn't have said because it's too short notice and you don't think he's going to be ready. I would say more so for his health. Like let people know why you would up and leave. But maybe it was an ego thing.
Okay, Stacks.
No, I think Callie's absolutely right again, man. I mean, if it's because you're concerned about your fighter, you come out publicly and say, personally, I can't train him because I'm scared for my fighter. I don't want him to get hurt. And you put it out there publicly, and you don't look like an asshole by saying that because as far as I know, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Callie, most training camps are 8 weeks leading up to big fights. So I don't know how much 6 weeks, 2 weeks is really going to make a difference unless he's really out of shape and really going to have that much trouble getting down to 147. But I mean, and most of your weight cut comes that last week. You're cutting weight throughout your training camp, but you spar, and then the week of leading up to the fight week is when you're cutting the major amount of the weight. So, like I said, unless he's really going to have trouble, unless he's really big right now, and Ingle knows something that we don't, he's using that 6 weeks as an excuse. Because if you're really concerned, like you said, then just come out publicly and say, hey, man, I've been with him, I know him, I don't want to see him get hurt, and I can't be there for you.
Yeah, you got a former world champion fighter. 6 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, okay. You got a guy who's been there, seen it, and fought at the top in the game, and 6 weeks is plenty of time. It is. He's a former world champion, so he knows the ropes.
Twine.
What, you want my opinion on the trainer thing or what?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about, bro.
I guess I have mixed feelings about it. I mean, I watched the IFL interview, and Ingle was saying like he likes to do a full 12. He usually does 12 weeks as far as with Kell. That's something he mentioned in the interview. So I kind of had mixed feelings about it.
You're breaking up real bad, man.
I mean, they kind of known the date that was being led around there for a while, and I've seen actually Kell Brook fighting. I think Dominic, as far as the interview, he was saying that he felt like too much was being dictated to him, and he felt like he's the trainer. He's going to do things his way.
Hey, Finn.
6 weeks was necessarily the main excuse, but it was like some things as far as Kell wanting to train outside of Sheffield. Like it was a bunch of stupid stuff, honestly. So I really don't think there's an excuse there. I mean, he's been on your team, for this whole time. You've been his long-time trainer. I think he should have been there for Kell in this moment, one of his biggest fights.
I agree. I think I'll give my opinion. I think he should have stayed. I think that Kelly and Stacks hit it on the nail. You know what I mean? I think Kelly might be right about his ego. He don't want to see the aftermath of what's going to happen because I think Crawford's going to probably knock him out. He's a big guy, but I think Crawford's going to get him out of there. So, all right. So moving on to the heavyweights, there was a fight. Wanted to get you guys' opinion on. Daniel Dubois and Joyce have agreed to terms. They're going to fight. Dubois is a very highly touted prospect. I think more so than Joyce. In my opinion, I got Daniel destroying this guy. But we'll start with Stacks. What do you think about this fight, man?
Yeah, I think is Dubois. Yeah, Daniel Dubois, man.
Yeah.
I think he takes him. I think he takes him, man. I mean, he was last year my prospect of the year. So I've been following his career. He's a great heavyweight. He's got some skills, but I think he's just going to be too much for Joe Joyce, man.
Agreed. I watched Joe Joyce's last fight. That homeboy couldn't miss with the straight right. And I was like, he's gonna let that be a homie. He's gonna go out. What do you think, Kelly?
Oh man, I was hoping you guys just get past me on this one. I don't know too much on the guys to speak on it. To be honest, I got to be dead honest. I have not seen enough, so
okay.
For me to make a statement.
That's
honest, man.
That's respectable, man. Honest, man. Go ahead, Twine.
I mean, honestly, it's a weird. People are gonna probably laugh at me about this. Like you look at Joe Joyce and you look like he's just a slow coat. You know what I'm saying? Like easy to be hit. But I mean, he ends up winning all his fights and putting poundings on guys. He has the bigger resume at this stage in their careers. Dubois has been brought up a little bit slower. Joe Joyce has fought some bigger named opponents than him. So I mean, with that, I kind of would want to. I think I would go with Joyce. I'm picking Joyce in the upset. I think Daniel Dubois is probably the favorite, but I mean, I think Joe Joyce could actually shock some people in this fight.
Okay, that's surprising. Did you watch his last fight? He's like he knocked homeboy out, but homeboy was tagging him with the right, man.
Yeah, I mean, but he's looked slow and methodical in a lot of his fights and been easy to hit. So I mean, it's nothing different for me. But I mean, he's pulled it out against more experienced fighters. Dubois still fighting a lot of lower tier guys, guys that are going to make him look impressive, of course. So I think ultimately just they both are still pretty inexperienced, have a low amount of fights as far as professionals. But I think Joe Joyce's experience as far as the caliber of opponents he's been in might carry over.
And let me chime in on that. What Twine was saying, as far as Joyce goes, a lot of times, and I've seen it in the past, fighters, it doesn't matter how good they are. They can be world champions, but a lot of times they tend to fight at the level of their opponent, right? So if you have maybe say a tune-up, they call them the tune-up fights, right? Or a fighter that's not necessarily a voluntary defense, and they don't look so good, and then people are like, oh yeah, well, he got exposed and this and that. Well, maybe it's not the fighter getting exposed or that champion getting exposed. It's just that champ or that fighter fighting to the level of their opponent. I mean, I've seen it the fight with Jojo Diaz, when he fought in Mexicali on Facebook, man. Golden Boy had a Facebook fight. Like, it wasn't televised. It wasn't on the zone. It wasn't anywhere. They put Jojo in against some no-name from Rosarito or wherever the hell he was from, and he looked like shit. But then a few months later, he goes around and he beats Tevin Farmer. So it's just fighting at the level of their opponent. So maybe that's what happened with Joyce. Maybe, he was getting tagged. Maybe, there was something there. Maybe he did have some defensive slip-ups. Yeah. But maybe he was just fighting at the level of his opponent.
Fair. Well, did you ever experience that, Kelly?
What's that?
Because he was talking about how a lot of times a fighter will fight to the level of their opponent.
Yeah, it does happen. But sometimes that's the trainer or somebody else's area to try to snap you out of that. But you get caught up. It happened to me a couple fights. It happened to me. Well, one, I was just enjoying beating the shit out of the kid because he was talking a lot of smack before the fight. But sometimes you just get in there and you get comfortable and you're not too concerned. Especially if they're not hurting you with too much of anything, and that's dangerous sometimes. But yeah, you could fight at the level of your opponent, and it only hurts the guy. Especially if you're supposed to go in there and dominate the guy, because people, they want to see you go in and beat somebody up and take them out who you're supposed to do it to.
Exactly, and I think a lot of it has to do with the media as well. With us that write and us that are involved in the sport, because sometimes we overlook that opponent for the fighter that's in the ring. So say, for instance, I knew that if Jojo won that fight, he was getting Farmer. That was mandatory. It's a big fight. He's going to fight Farmer. He's getting a world title fight. And everybody's talking about Farmer Jojo. They show clips of them arguing in Vegas, them getting at each other, their Twitter beef. Everything's about Farmer and Jojo, but nothing's about Jojo and this kid from Mexico. So Jojo's already looking through this opponent, you know? And me and him have talked. I mean, I've interviewed Jojo, and he told me the same thing. He said, man, you hit the nail on the head, bro, because I wasn't worried about what was in front of me, and I should have been. I didn't train as hard as I should have because I'm worried about Farmer in January, and didn't take this guy as serious as I should have.
Let me ask both Kelly and Steph this question to follow up on this. Because this is actually something not commonly seen as far as this Dubois and Joyce fight. Two prospects fighting each other. You know, two top prospects as far as just the heavyweight division. Is this something you'd like to see? Because it makes me clamor for seeing more prospects fighting each other, such as, you know, like Virgil Ortiz versus a Jerome Ennis and, you know, at welterweight. So is this something you guys would like to see more of as far as prospects getting their digs in early against each other?
Go ahead, Jack, you go first.
Man, look, personally, I don't mind it, right? But looking at it through a manager's eyes, looking at it through a promotional company's eyes, it's not always the best move. You want to build them up, get these fighters 15-0, 16-0, make them a household name, get them the bigger fights. And if they take that first L, you know, they want it to be against somebody that they're going to learn from, you know. And I'm not necessarily saying that Dubois or Joyce isn't going to learn from this fight, because I'm sure they are. But the thing is it kind of wrinkles them early in their career. You know, if you build somebody up and then somebody like Virgil, right? And then you have Virgil fight, maybe say somebody like an Adrian Bronner, or, you know, maybe somebody like an Amir Khan. That's a bigger name, and Virgil becomes a household name. And then you put him in a big fight against maybe somebody like Crawford, and he takes that L. That's a lot different than him fighting somebody like Ennis against Boots. You know, yeah, that's a fight that we want to see as fans, but I don't think it's necessarily smart on the monetary side as far as building up a fighter in their career. You know, but that's just me personally.
I agree with Stacks on that. That's yeah. Now it happened with me in my career. Me and Miranda. You know, even though Miranda fought, I think right before me, I can't remember when he fought Abraham, if that was for a title or not. But that was very rare to see my record and a guy like Edison Miranda's record and reputation, you know, fight each other for a non-title fight. But that being said, yeah, you know, it's a risky move. Usually, you're building that prospect up to market him, get him out there, and become your money man. And you know, putting him in against another prospect, it's not good for both. Sometimes here and there is kind of a little spark maybe for boxing, but I wouldn't make it a habit. And I think if you do it too much, that it can actually hurt the sport, because now you got some top prospects where you're looking for future fights, and maybe one wasn't ready yet, and we didn't get to see the best of him because he stepped up, you know, before his time. And I think, you know, just keep it sometimes old school is a little bit better, and you know, keep it the old way. Let them climb that rank, get that hunger, and earn that spot. So
yeah, and it depends on what type of prospect you have as well, because if it's a prospect that you think can be a world champion, you don't want to do that to them early in their career. You know, both of these guys, to me, Joyce and Dubois, both have the caliber of boxing to be a world champion, right? But sometimes you have prospects that aren't quite necessarily on that level, right? That you don't know what's going to happen. And as a promotional company, you need to kind of cut some money so the cream rises to the top. So for instance, October 30th in Fantasy Springs, you have Alexis Rocha going up against Rashidi Ellis, right? Two Golden Boy prospects fighting each other. Alexis is undefeated. I'm not for sure if Rashidi is or not. I believe he is, but you got two of Golden Boy's top prospects going at it. But it's a little bit different because they're stablemates, and I think Golden Boy needs to just kind of figure out who we're going to keep or whose contract are we going to cut, you know?
Does that happen a lot, Kelly?
Yeah, it does. I mean, not prospects fighting, but you're talking about the same stable with prospects, or
Yeah, is that promotion? Because you've been on that end. Does it happen with a promotional company? They want to pick which one of them they want to run with, and they use such a fight like that a lot.
yeah, well, going on what he's saying, it's not now. It's starting to become. You're getting big stables like Garcia's and some of these trainers that are getting big names. A lot of these fighters are starting to flock, to these trainers, and now that's their stable, and you may have, 5 or 6 world champions and 20 contenders. Yeah, that is a little different. And if you want to be a greedy trainer and you got the time to do it, then you could try to, if you got a good manager who you've been working with, you could reroute your guys either or, and try to just get more. But for the most part, these trainers are busy and they got a shitload of talent in their gyms, and they're probably at the same point. The promoter, hey, let's get this guy, let's fight them and see who's the top. So we can quit playing around. It's starting to become big. It's starting to become pretty common in boxing. Back then you had 1 or 2 big names, coaches, and it was different than it is now.
And I think you're going to see it a lot more because of this whole COVID situation. Because, for instance, Golden Boy, right? Their little club show was at the Belasco Theater. So they'd have like the Belasco fight nights where they'd have the fights there at the Belasco. Top Rank would have the Univision fights. They have Bash Boxing out here in the Valley in California. They had Iron Boy in Arizona, right? PBC would have cards that would have like different prospects on it. I mean, a lot of the PBC cards, I mean, if you go to their fights, they have 20 cards on one fight, and some of the fights would be after the championship, the fight. I remember in Ontario when Harrison and Charlo fought, I think there was like 10 fights after the main event, just to get these prospects in there and get them out there. But because of COVID, because of them not being able to have club shows, because all this stuff's not going on, they can't really develop these guys, and they got to figure out who they're going to keep, because money's tight. Money's tight right now in boxing.
Twine, what do you think about that?
I think we're going to see more and more of it. Like, I agree with Stacks, things are still tight right now with budgets. Being able to put these big cars together with revenue coming in from live gates until at least with the upcoming Texas fights, so we don't know how that's going to stand yet. And I think we'll see a lot more of this stuff, just because we got to separate the boys from the men as far as who's going to be what, who's going to be the real contenders, who's going to have the bigger career. I mean, I think it's unfortunate because a lot of these guys are young fighters, and it's kind of like throwing in a towel on them early. But I mean, this is still a business at the end of the day, and promoters want to protect their assets as well as their investment, in their fighters.
Yeah,
agree. I think we had discussed it last week, dealing with Maurice Hooker and the Carl Frampton fight at the time. It was Shakur Stevens, right? That tossed his hat in there, and it kind of like the rumor was he was going to disrupt that. And I think we had discussed whether or not he should have went ahead. But I think today Carl Frampton tweeted out he got the fight. They signed the fight. So we had discussed how it was unusual to see 2 big name guys in the same stable, go. And we was hoping that he would let him, because Frampton, especially if they fight at the UK, that's some money. That's money. Let him get the money first and then fight him. You know what I mean? If you want to force it or whatever. So, Twine, you want to lead us into our next topic?
Sure.
Hey guys, do you mind real quick?
Coming on tonight, within the next hour.
Hey, hold on, Twine. What'd you say, Kelly?
Question, bro. Is that cool?
Yeah. Well, if you gotta run real fast, let's talk Teofimo Lopez and Lomachenko real fast, man, before you run.
I was figuring that was coming.
Yeah, let's talk that before you run out. I'm taking Teofimo. A lot of people think I'm crazy. I think both these guys are taking Loma. I heard your discussion a little bit in Boxing Elite, and we had talked to you on our first show about the fight. Who are you favoring right now, Kelly?
Oh, man. Listen, you're not crazy for picking Teofimo. You're not. There's a kid right there. And I call him kid because I'm a good amount older. If somebody had the full package, I think he does. Everybody keeps talking about his power. I think people are forgetting Teofimo is an athletic, fast fighter. He's got quick hands. He hits like a horse. I mean, he's a hell of a boxer. His foot movement, everything. He's just a hell of an athlete. I think that if he loses this fight, I think it could set him ahead even more so. Depending now if he loses like Rigondeaux and what Loma has done to some other very talented fighters and make him quit or beat him bad, that might not help him. But if it's a tough fight or a close fight, he can learn a lot from that, and I think it's only going to help him. With that being said, I know people after Lomachenko embarrassed Rigondeaux, all of a sudden Rigondeaux was 48 years old and he jumped up, all these weight classes. Everybody found an excuse, and that's where sometimes people sound like jackasses. You know what I mean? Like they forget what they're all saying on the internet before the fight, and then just because of biasness or anything else, they all change that tune. We've seen how good Loma is and what he can do. I guess this is where we find out how much what levels mean in boxing. I think, in my opinion, Teofimo is at a high level. But when I know Lomachenko is, but we'll find out. So it's still hard to pick because Teofimo, I think, in my opinion, is that good where he could change a fight with his power, and he's got the speed to land it. And then Lomachenko could pull out the no mas, no Maschenko, and frustrate him, because he's inexperienced and he hasn't seen anything like Lomachenko, and Loma may be able to make him quit on his stool after 6 rounds. So. It's interesting. It's a fight that I wouldn't bet, and I would actually just sit back and enjoy it without worrying who I bet it on. So,
exactly, man. Speed beats power, and Loma has all the speed in the world, but timing beats speed. And we've seen Loma dropped, jumping in against Linares, and the timing of Linares catching him. It wasn't a hard shot, and it wasn't necessarily a real hard knockdown, flash knockdown as they call it, but Teofimo's not going to hit him with a shot like Linares did. Teofimo throws with bad intentions, and timing beats him. And if he times that shot early enough in that fight, he's going to put Loma to sleep. I think I don't want it to turn out the way Fernando Vargas de la Hoya did, where Vargas was just all pumped up, the big, strong fighter coming in against this technical, the golden boy, and went after him and had him, but blew his load too early, and we seen what happened there. But I think if he keeps his composure and fights the way he knows how to fight, the way Teofimo knows how to fight, it's very possible that Lomachenko goes to sleep in this fight.
Absolutely. To be fair, though, and Teofimo's got super good hand speed. But Linares is fast. And Linares still, I believe is a top 3 as far as hand speed. I mean, for a while there, he was listed as one of the fastest. So, I mean, to credit or support Loma a little bit, pretty quick dude, though. So, I mean, you got dropped by somebody who could time like that. And I do agree. I think Teofimo still can do that also. I mean, I think Teofimo has the tools to be able to drop him like that. So.
But like you said as well, the technician, just Lomachenko, his skill set and his hand speed and his Olympic style of boxing, he can just go in there and maybe just outpoint him, and box and box and box. It's Teofimo's fight to win. It's Teofimo's fight to lose. He's got to go in there and fight his fight because we all know what Loma's going to do. He's going to bounce around. He's going to hit him with the pitter-patter shots. He's going to frustrate him. And Teofimo's got to find a way to go in and get at him, because I don't know if Loma has enough power to hurt him. So does Teofimo take that risk and turn it into a brutal fight? Kind of the way Siri Salido did. And rough him up, hit him with some hip shots, use some dirty tactics. A lot of hip shots, a lot of elbows, a lot of dirty tactics, some rough fighting, and rough Loma up a little bit where he's not used to that. So it's like Kelly said, it's a fight I wouldn't bet on, but I'm going to enjoy watching the hell out of that fight.
Me as well. I was on Robert Garcia's live last night, and I asked him that same question. He's actually taking Teofimo, and then I asked him, well, how would you negate the movement of Loma? And he was like, well, you're going to have to, the only way you really can do it is pressure, like Toledo did, be up on him, and that's how he thinks Lopez is going to get him. Real fast, shout out to Emilio Santana. He's with Boxing Playhouse. Him and Shakura Armstrong, awesome show. Watch it all the time. He said, all right, Mally and the Ghost. How you doing, bro? Thanks for joining the show. Real fast before you go, Kelly, some people that are taking Teofimo are quoting maybe they've seen a decline in Lomachenko because he has been touched a little bit in his last few fights. Do you see that at all?
What, getting hit because he got hit 11 times in a fight? That don't say shit to me. Yeah, I laugh at that. I'm not being a fanboy. I respect great fighters. That's how I call it. You know what I mean? I think people, if they quit being so naive and just enjoy, like watch the talent you got in front of you. Watch the Crawfords, watch the Shakur Stevensons, Virgil Ortiz Jr. and Lomachenkos. Watch them guys and just love the sport. Quit hating. Lomachenko, he got hit against Pedraza 12 times. I mean, I guess it's because you're not used to seeing him get hit like that, but they really overall didn't get hit a lot. It wasn't a lot of punches. But you got the people out there to say that. Now, listen, I did mention this, though. Styles of fighters is a key factor. You got some guys, I talked a little bit on my last show about this. You start getting 32 years old. Speed and timing, you start losing first, okay? Power is the last thing to go. So some fighters can fight into their late 30s, early 40s because their style, like Triple G. He's a big power puncher. He still has somewhat of a decent timing. He can make those things happen, and he can still win fights because of that. Lomachenko is a guy who relies solely on reaction time and speed and reflexes. That is his whole game plan. As soon as he loses that much of it against a guy like Teofimo, could be at that level, could be a world of difference. You know what I mean? Because that's Lomachenko's superpowers. And so we don't know. I personally, I don't think Lomachenko is the type of fighter that'll be able to fight into his late 30s with his style, unless he's which he is smart. He changed his game plan and figured something else out. But that's another reason with this fight. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I probably definitely would have went ahead with Lomachenko. But that's kind of where I'm on the fence a little bit because, if he lost that much, that could make a big difference against a guy like Teofimo.
No, I think you're absolutely right, man. And what happens, and people, I tell people this all the time, when you have two fighters at a championship level, there's no reason to use the word exposed. They're at a championship level for a reason. They're high caliber for a reason. These fighters are going to get hit. The same thing with Errol Spence and Sean Porter. You got a dog in Sean Porter. You have Errol Spence, who's a champion, right? They're at championship levels. Errol Spence was going to get hit. Sean Porter was going to get hit. That's what happens in those type of fights, man. It's not going to be a wash. It's not going to be Lomachenko going in there, and if he gets hit 2 or 3 times, he was exposed or this or that or whatever. Teofimo's going to hit him. Teofimo's going to get hit. That's what happens in championship fights. Very rarely do you see a quick knockout or something like that. It happens, don't get me wrong. But when you get 2 levels, when you get to that level, those are the type of fights that you want. I mean, if you look at Kovalev and Ward got dropped and came back and had to adjust and use the skill to beat Kovalev in that first fight. Canelo and Triple G, that first fight. Could have been a draw, could have went either way. People say Triple G won, people say Canelo won. It just all depends on what you look at as a judge. Are you looking for that, the scoring? Are you looking for the aggressive effectiveness? If me and Callie are in a fight and I pop Callie 30 times in the round, but at the end of the round, he cracks me, breaks my nose, puts me into the ropes, and I get saved by the bell, who wins the round? Me or Callie? Yeah. It just depends on what the judges are looking for. And at a championship level, there's no need to hate. Like, there's no need for it, man. These guys are there for a reason. Enjoy what you got in front of you, man. Enjoy the fight.
Kelly, did you say you had to go? Because
I'm sorry, guys.
No, we want to thank you so much for coming on, man. Once again, you were our first guest. You and James. James is an awesome person, man. Just tell him, I said, what's up? I was hoping that he'd be on, but I think he said he was going to be out of town. But once again, Kelly, man, thank you, champ, man. And
listen,
legend, bro.
I appreciate all you guys. I mean, I love the bullshit again. It's always fun. And I like talking with people that know some shit on the sport, man. So it's fun.
All right, we appreciate you. Well, Twine, you want to say anything to him before he bounces, man? Before we get to our last topic?
Yeah, just thanks for coming on, Kelly, man. I enjoy watching you in games on the Punchline, and definitely it's always an honor to have you on our show as well to talk boxing, man. So appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man. It's always great talking boxing with knowledgeable people, man. It's always that's always a plus, man. Always a plus.
Yes, sir.
It is.
All right.
I appreciate it, fellas. Have a good night.
All right. Good
you
night,
as well, bro. God bless your family, bro. You have a nice one.
You too.
All right. So, Twine, you go ahead and lead us into our last topic for the night.
All right. We're gonna go ahead and do a breakdown and WBO vacant title fight for featherweight between Emmanuel Navarette and Ruben Villa. Who you got winning, Stacks, man? This is Navarette's first, or I think his second fight at 126.
I got my Thompson boxing boy, Ruben Villa. Yeah,
Okay.
I
Wow.
think it's gonna be a tough fight, and I think he pulls off a split decision. But I think he's gonna win. I think he's gonna shock the world tonight, and people are gonna realize who Ruben Villa is. Technical fighter. He can box his ass off. He doesn't have power. He ain't gonna knock Navarette out. But I think he's going to frustrate the hell out of him. He's going to make Navarette smother his punches. I don't think Navarette is going to be able to cut off the ring the way people think he can. And I got Ruben winning. And I think I'm a little biased because of my ties with Thompson Boxing and watching Ruben from his very first fight to where he's at now, and knowing his stable mates of Michael Dutchover and Ruben Torres and knowing that whole crew, man. So I'm a little biased, but I do know as well, the skill set that he has. And I don't think that Navarette is going to be as big as everybody thinks he is at 126. Moving up from 22 to 26 and fighting somebody as technical as Ruben Villa, who actually beat Shakur Stevenson, which you'll probably hear his name 150 damn times on tonight's broadcast. He beat him twice in the amateurs. But yeah, I got Villa tonight, man.
You want to go first, Twine?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually in agreement with Stacks. I thought I would be the only one that was picking him. I think Ruben Villa is going to win. Navarette has been a weight bully at 122 aside, looking at his height, weight, and length. He's been a weight bully at 122, and Ruben's actually similar in stature to him. He actually looks bigger than Navarette if you've seen their weigh-in.
Yeah.
I think Ruben is going to pull off a decision. I'll probably lean towards split or majority decision as well. Stacks makes a good point. He beat Shakur twice in amateurs as well as Devin Haney. So, he's a well-schooled boxer, So I definitely think he's going to upset the apple cart here as far as, people expecting an easy WBO vacant pickup for Navarette because of Shakur dropped the 126 title. But I think Ruben is going to spoil those plans.
I think so too.
That's all three of us, because I thought I was going to be the only one on here to take him, but no, all three of us taken. I think he's got the higher ring IQ.
Yeah,
he's a good counter puncher. He has good feet work, and I think in this fight, Navarette tends to throw a lot of wide, just try to knock out punches. I don't know if that's to his advantage in this fight. I think that Villa's going to take advantage of that, counterpunching, win the fight. I got him winning. I'm going to go with the unanimous decision. I think he's really going to show off tonight, and people are going to be like, "Wow, who is this guy?" Not a lot of people have heard of him. So, 7:15,
the fights are on. I'm about to turn on the ESPN. Thank you guys so much, man. Malachi Twine, it's always a pleasure, man. When you come back to Cali, you got to let me know, man. We hit up some taco spots in San Diego, bro. Malachi.
I want some of that barbecue, man. I'll be seeing you throw there, man.
Hey, I got the smoker on my backyard. My house is mi casa, su casa. Chris Parker will tell you that, man. I threw down on the grill for Chris Parker when he came out here. But Malachi, same thing. You're ever out in LA, guys.
Yes, sir.
You guys know to hit me up, man. You guys are my family. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the boxing show, man. We all have to come together as boxing media, man. It can't be fuck this podcast or fuck that podcast or this one's better than that. Nah, man. We got to grow the sport together. Whether it's Supreme Boxing, whether it's you guys, whether it's Boxing Playhouse, whoever it is, the Boxing Rundown, we got to grow the sport, man. That's the only way the sport's going to grow. There can't be hate amongst us media. We got to blow it up, man, and let people know what boxing is about, man. And fuck these guys that are saying boxing's dead. It's far from it, man. Far from it. But I appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys having me on. Monday, I will be on the Boxing Rundown. With God's help, as long as there's no fires on the freeway, I should be on the Boxing Rundown. And we got a special guest, Chelly Rivas. If you guys don't know who she is, check her out on her IG. That's all I'm gonna say about that. So Chelly Rivas, Monday night, she'll be there, and we'll be talking the same thing. We'll be talking Teofimo Lomachenko, and then we'll be talking some other stuff. You know, I'm sure we're gonna be talking the Villa fight. You know, Drac. So hopefully Drac will go in and take care of El Caballero. So.
All right, bro, man. It was awesome having you on. I got to go too. Twine, you want to close this out, bro?
Yeah, man. Just thank everybody for tuning in to another one of our shows. We'll be back again with Monday to do a breakdown of this week's fight, and of course, we'll be doing another show next Friday to break down or do our final prediction show on Teo and Loma next week, because I don't think I gave my prediction. So I'll be back next week to talking with boxing with y'all. Much love to Stacks. Thanks for coming on, my bro from Cali. You know what it is, bro.
That's right.
You told me you didn't want to give your prediction tonight.
Yeah, I know.
I would have gave you a chance, but you were like, "Oh no, I'll let them give theirs." No, I ain't gonna let you throw me under the bus, man.
Yeah, and then I got a nice Cali Chronic blunt waiting for you guys when you guys get out here, man.
All right, with that, we out.
It's legal out here, brother. Peace.
Y'all have a good night.